Good morning, all. Welcome to my bedroom. We're going to work out in here this morning. I just feel like we're all going to get pretty bored being at home. And some people like to look inside other people's houses. So if you're wondering why I keep showing you where I live, it's because somebody might be curious about what Miss Stephanie's bedroom looks like. So here it is. I made the bed for you and everything. You can probably see which side's mine by the extra blankies on it. And I've got two windows that the sunshine comes through, for which I'm very grateful. There's my pile of extra blankies if I get cold, cold, cold. And here's my giant television. And that is a pile of things that needs to go to Goodwill. I've been having a clear out for like a year. And my massage stuff, you can see there on top. And we're not going to use any foam rollers or stuff today, but I'm going to make a video soon about just that. Okay, so here we are in my bedroom, and we're going to do this is a yoga and stretch release type workout today. It's what I usually do on a day when I'm calling it a rest day. And this is a great thing to do to still move your body, which if you don't know, as you get older, your body doesn't like it when you don't move it. Even when it is a rest day from maybe more intense exercise, your body wants to move in some way. So as you're doing these online classes and other tutorials that we're making for you so that you can work at home, you can put this one in whenever you're feeling tight or uncomfortable, or if you're feeling, this is a great workout if you're feeling sick, or like you might be getting sick, but you don't want to totally not move your body. This is a good one to do where you're not going to push too hard, but you can move your body and get your brain connected to your body and make friends with it. So start by sitting up on your sits bones, and I tell my students your pelvis is like a flower pot, and it's a square flower pot, and it has four corners, and they are sitting firmly on the ground. And then out of that flower pot, you're growing a long stem of a plant, and it's a strong, flexible stem coming up out of the plant, and that's your spine. Okay, and then it's got a big blossom on the top. Okay, it might be a sunflower, although those don't have the most flexible. Somebody help me with imagery here when you watch this video. I need something with a more flexible stalk. But you've got your blossom, and that's your head. And we're going to roll our blossom around like we're searching for the sun, perhaps. And if my head was really a blossom, it would stop right about there, because that's where the sunshine's coming in my room. And then after we've done about 8 circles, I like to come center because I struggle with dizziness. And then I go the other way. If you struggle with dizziness too, you can find an equilibrium before you try and go the other way. You don't have to try for extreme range of motion here. Just do what feels good in your body. Bring yourself back up here. And then we're going to come to all fours and do a little bit of cat-cow. And so, cat-cow, most of us are pretty familiar with that. You do hips over knees and shoulders over hands. And then you start, I always start a neutral spine. Neutral spine for yoga is what dancers dance in mostly. Closed abdomen, lengthened lumbar, shoulders together and back, all that sort of thing. And then you release it all and arch. That's like a cow, sway back cow. And then you squeeze your belly button in towards your spine. And you arch like a cow, chin to chest, arching. Think about an arch that goes from the crown of your head all the way to the base of your spine. And then you breathe. And then inhale as you come to cat. And exhale as you lengthen. And you can breathe intentionally through this, or you can let your breath make the rules. You can bring your breath. It's hard to let your breath be natural when you're concentrating on it, but you can breathe naturally and pay attention to what your breathing is doing and move when you would naturally inhale. If you're capable of doing that, if I focus on mine, I stop breathing. So then I have to start, and then I have to do it purposefully. We're warming up our spine with that movement. Now we're going to take our all fours position, and we're going to come out into a side plank. So I'm going to come back to face you too. We can talk about alignment. You're in your all fours position, and you can walk your hands here sideways. Leave your left knee planted, stretch out your right leg, and come up here. Now I've noticed that I'm tenting my hand, so I'm going to remind myself to flatten my palm on the floor because that's safer for my fingers and things of that nature. Now, this is a modified side plank, but you want to be here even if you can do a true side plank because we're going to use it to stretch our quadricep. You can come back into this place here, bringing your heel towards your glute and stretching the hamstring. You can also do what is essentially dancer pose in this position if you have the balance for it and if that creates more stretch for you. And then you can come center and flip to the other side. Find your side plank first. Make sure that you've got, I'm checking now, I've got my shoulder over my wrist, which I struggle with. My body kind of wants to push back here, okay, but I have to remind myself to stay over. And then I'm gonna stretch my quadricep on this side as well. This one's tighter than the other one, so I'm saying hello to that. And then I'm coming back into center. I'm going to take my first downward dog of the day. So I'm going to plant my hands in front of me, flex my toes, and come up onto the balls of my feet. I'm going to move this in profile for a second so we can talk about it. If you're not familiar with downward dog, the goal is to take your plank position and usually, depending on your body composition, press that into downward dog. If you are like me and you have abnormally short arms, you might have to bring your hands in a tick in order to get there. Also, if you're working on carpet. You want your head down between your inner elbows. You want to lift your tail feathers towards the sky. And straightening your knees is the goal, but you don't need to automatically go there. In fact, it's a gift to bend your knees slightly and to pedal them back and forth. And then reach your heels toward the ground. And then once you've found for yourself a nice downward dog that feels good to you, you can bring one leg in. And if your hamper isn't in the way, you can lift a leg and bring it in and lift it again and bring it in. And one more time, lift it and bring it in to half pigeon. And try and square your hips here and sit down into this position. This is a position that if I brought my yoga blocks up here, I would be using them right now because I was just trying to tent my fingers. And in not tenting my fingers, I'm a little bit down far enough that I'm a little more uncomfortable than I typically seek to be when I'm stretching. I have very tight hips. They do submit to being warmed and stretched, and then they will cooperate. So I don't take that as a life sentence, but they do take more maintenance and attention than somebody who might have naturally flexible hips. I'm thankful for my tight hips though, because it means that I have never experienced a hip injury, and I'm unlikely to do so. And the reason that they are tight is because my hips and my glutes are strong. So I'm trying to keep my left and my right hip square, which is difficult. And then I'm seeking to put my right glute on the ground, which it is not. That's a nice place for a yoga block. And I'm trying to get the front of my left hip on the ground, which it also is not. And I'm gonna flex my foot and push myself back up into split, and then come forward into a long lunge. Place my knee forward and stretch back into half split. I really should have brought my yoga blocks up here. I'm gonna pretend I have yoga blocks so that I can flatten my back. Sometimes the imagining, the visualization of the steadying object is enough to help me. If I had my yoga blocks here, I'd stay here for a long time. Okay, you can also rock forward here. If your goal, maybe over our closure time, is to get closer to your splits or to work an over split, get your split on the wall, get a leg onto a higher bar, this is an excellent place to just hang out. You can sit here and watch TV if you like. My inner thigh does not want to stay there, so I'm not going to stay there. I'm going to find my downward dog again, and then I'm going to do the other leg. So I'm going to press forward, drawing my belly button up into my spine, and then I'm going to center my right leg and lift my left. And do the same thing. I'm going to bring it into the knee. Oops. Come back up. Knee. And back up. One more time. Knee. And back up. And this time I'm going to come into half pigeon on the other side. And again, I'm going to try and square my left hip and my right hip. I'm going to not tent my hands, and I'm going to seek, I'm going to reach my body. I'm going to reach my left hip down like it's reaching for the floor. I'm not going to rock over into it, but it is pressing down, trying to get my left glute on the floor. That's easier to do if you're like me and you're really far from the floor. Putting a yoga block right here can be very helpful, because then you have something to push against that will keep you square. Right now, if I pushed, I rock into that hip and then I'm no longer square. I'm also trying to press my right hip into the floor, which is very nice and terrible and uncomfortable. I'm going to flex my toes and press back up into down dog split, and then come forward into that lunge I was in before, which feels a lot easier because this is my second side, even though this is my weaker, tighter side. And then I'm going to come back into half split. Have my imaginary yoga blocks, would have to be about 3 feet tall. And then I'm going to come forward here. And I forget the yoga term for this position. It might be lizard or half lizard, or this one that we come down into our forearms for might be lizard. Maybe one of you will tell me when I publish this video. And then I'm going to flex into here again and press up one more time. Find my downward dog. And then I'm going to walk my hands back, bend my knees deeply, and roll up. And then I'm going to come to standing. Pardon me. We're going to come to second position as soon as I hydrate. I'm going to come to second, which we use a lot in ballet and jazz classes. And then we're going to straighten up and come out. Reach out of our hips and then come over to the side. Here, looking up towards the ceiling. We're going to bring both hands down and both hands up. And then if you can, one hand down and then flip to the other way. And the same thing here, up and down and up and down and up and up and center. And then I want you to join me in cobbler's pose, which is to start here, and then I have to bring my legs in a tiny bit, and you come all the way down so that your hips are lower than your knees. Now, it can be really tempting to let your abdominal wall relax here and hang forward, but we still want to stabilize our core here. You can still keep your pelvis tucked under and your abdominals zipped up. You can put pressure here. This helps me to keep my chest lifted. If I didn't have my elbows engaged here, I'd be like this because this is a difficult position. This one also is a great hip opener. It is a lot more intense for those of us who need it. And so, but it is designed for you to sit in. If you would like to sit here, you can sit here. Or you can join me, power up out of that, into the other side, into both arms straight, and down, and open, and down, and open. And then bend your knee and repeat, open and down and open and down and twist and open and come center. You can come down into cobbler's pose again if you desire. You might find it a little bit easier this time. I just did. I don't know what that's about, but this time that felt easier. It's important to not restrict your breath when you are stretching for progress. There is stretching for the alleviation of pain, for the promotion of muscle healing after intense workouts. And then there is stretching to achieve a flexibility that you did not have before. If you are doing the latter, you need to remember to breathe. We're going to do one more thing. We're going to bring our feet together and then deeply bend. Sit yourself down here. Lengthen your left leg, bend your right, hug your right knee with your left hand, and twist, spinal twist. Don't ever do this position slouched. Your spine was not meant to be twisted in this position. It cannot do that, and it drastically, decreases the amount of twist because your spine is using so much surface area to be curved more greatly than it is meant to be. So sit up tall and twist. Spinal twisting, according to the yoga people, is really good for getting out the toxins and things of that nature. I like this stretch, not really for the spinal twist, but for this gets a deep stretch for me in my deep six and in my outer adductors and all of those ballet and booty muscles that get sore when you're doing barre fitness work and ballet and those sorts of things. I'm going to switch legs. I have more space on this side. This is my weaker side, so I'm more weaker but more flexible on this side, so I can get my elbow all the way over here. And if you can get your elbow onto the outside of your knee, you can also turn that up to here and press against it more deeply for a deeper spinal twist. But I'm not going to do that because my goal, I can actually pull a little harder if my hand is down. I can pull a little bit more and get a deep stretch out of my outer hip so that it feels a little bit like I'm having like a spiritual revelation. You can also, if that stretch is not deep enough for you, you can bend your supporting knee as well and then twist. For me, that increases my challenge to be flexible other places, but it stops me being able to get this. So since that's what's uncomfortable for me today, I want to make sure I stretch that out. But if this feels better to you, you can do the same thing here, and then you can hug your knee if you like and twist this direction. The goal is to have both of your hips on the ground, which you see I can't do. If I put both of my hips on the ground, then my foot lifts. But that's okay. If I focus on putting both of my hips on the ground and ignore the fact that both of my hips on the ground, if I said feet, I'm sorry, and ignore the fact that this foot is floating, I can get a deeper stretch in my outer hip, which is what I'm looking for today. Okay, so you can do that on the other side. You can also do this one where you fold over here, and then this is the same as when someone asks you to lay on your back and hug these legs in this shape towards you. They usually have you grasp under the thigh and pull toward you. But here, I can walk my left foot, my supporting foot, this one, closer and closer and closer, which pushes my right leg closer and closer to my chest. And I can also use my hands behind me to support my spine so that it stays long and strong, which is, I want to be in that posture all the time when I stretch, because that's the posture I want when I dance. I'm going to switch to the other side. So I like this one better. If you like the one where you lay on the ground and pull it towards you, you can do that one too. They are virtually the same. This one I can also get a deeper stretch in, because when I prioritize my posture, all of a sudden I have a really deep breakthrough stretch through here. Now today, that's the end of my stretches that I'm going to do. And so what I would do next is I would roll and release. And I am going to do that today, but I'm not going to do that on camera for you today because I want to make a longer one of those. So look forward to that. But this is a yoga-based stretch and release that you can do after any of our level 3 or higher classes in order to find, you can use it as a cool down. You can use it or you can use it by itself as a stretching workout to benefit getting further in your flexibility, or to release when you've done, you may find yourself doing many classes, online classes in a row in your home, and then if that starts to build up some soreness in your body, then you can do this one to release those things. So thank you so much for joining me today, and have a wonderful Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow for jazz and hip hop classes online.